So when we make changes to any part of the Learning Ally solution, they are actually based upon what our users want, right? And that is a hugely important thing for us. So it's what do our students need to be successful? What do our teachers need to be successful? What do our parents need to be successful? We're just not making this stuff up. We're actually out listening and talking to the users of the Learning Ally solution. And that's an incredibly important part of our design process, which Amy and the rest of the team really lead. So if we think about this from a teacher standpoint now, so what about teacher training and instructional tools? So we've got a couple of different examples here. So first one is a list of 6 different seminars that we give, webinars that we give to engage teachers. And you see a whole different array of topics that exist, but it's all about different ways to help a teacher in the classroom. And they're all very practical ways that we help a teacher in the classroom. So we constantly are doing webinars, we're constantly doing live trainings, and there are videos that we do. So even when you launch Learning Ally from day one, it comes with videos of how do you use Learning Ally. It comes with access to webinars that teach teachers how do you use Learning Ally in the classroom. And then it's just supplemented throughout the course of the year with different things that the teachers need to do to help their students. So there's a whole array of teacher training that happens, and it's what I'll call Learning Ally's curriculum, and it is not student-based curriculum, but it's how do you help your student, how do you keep moving your student along, what do I do differently in the classroom, really all around students who learn differently, right? So there's a whole set of things we do to help train teachers. The next one is aligning all of our content to Lexile levels. So what is a Lexile level, first of all? So a Lexile level is basically tells a teacher what level that book is on. So is it a level that is, and I'm going to way oversimplify this, that is on a 4th grade level or a 7th grade level or an 8th grade level, that helps the teacher understand what level is my student reading and what level is my student comprehending. So what's important here is that a teacher understands what level a student is reading using Learning Ally, where they may not have been prior to Learning Ally, right? So if a student was reading at a quote unquote 2nd grade Lexile level and they're in 5th grade, and all of a sudden Learning Ally allows them to comprehend and understand at a 5th grade Lexile level, now the teacher can start assigning the right level of books based upon Lexile that they're seeing in that student. So mapping Learning Ally back to the Lexile levels that they're using in their classroom with all their students, incredibly important. And it actually is back to that belief. It helps the teacher put that student on the same level playing field as the rest of her students. So it's a great tool for teachers to assign Learning Ally books in the same way that they're assigning books for the rest of their classroom. So Lexiles are incredibly important. The third one is the 33andMe launch plan. So what 33andMe does, so go back to kind of our original conversation, that says it's all about driving frequency. So what the team just launched is basically a program that helps engage teachers and students from day one in frequency. So teachers sign up and they engage their students in how do I get that student reading more? And the teacher basically fills out a launch plan that they will engage within their students and within their classroom. And then we do a whole bunch of reporting, which I will show you in a couple minutes, that helps the teacher understand how frequently, how much that student's reading, and are they actually achieving the level that they want that student to achieve. So again, the teacher's not just left on their own to say, ooh, I need to get the student reading a certain amount, as well as how do I tie that to my specific curriculum or instruction design. 33andMe asks the teacher a whole bunch of questions about what is happening in his or her classroom that we can start instructing how do you use Learning Ally audiobooks based upon individual design within that exact education environment, which is incredibly important, and then providing them feedback on how each student is doing against their curriculum and how they're doing against a plan that they've set up. So this is really, if you think about the core of a solution, so I think about a product. A product is I leave it to you to figure out, right? I give you a hammer and it's up to you to figure out what do you do with that hammer. Learning Ally doesn't leave it up to you to figure out. It's a solution that helps drive you to an end game. And our end game is driving frequency. So if you think about Learning Ally, it's how do we help that teacher, how do we help that student read at a frequent level that we then know drives outcomes. And 33andMe is a big part of that at this point. So that's teacher and training. So student engagement and self-advocacy, there are many programs that we do here. Here are 3 examples. So we talked about the College Success Program, right? So that's all about how do we help students really engage in their education and advocate for themselves. So if you cut through the College Success Program, it's really about helping a blind and visually impaired student engage in their own education. We train them on how do you really own your education as a blind and visually impaired student. How do you talk to your teachers? How do you not get marginalized in the classroom? And back to that social emotional piece, which is a huge piece of this program. How do you actually make friends and how do you actually engage with your sighted peers? We hear many stories of blind and visually impaired, especially freshman students, struggling around how do I make friends? I don't want to leave my room, right? A lot of awkwardness. And that's a big part of not only the program, but the mentorship program. It's how do I engage? How do I acclimate to the environment that I'm in? So self-advocacy, big part of that. The YES program, which hopefully everybody has seen, which is really all about teaching kids to self-advocate for themselves. Understanding, most importantly, how they learn, understanding that they're not broken, and giving them the ability to sit down in front of their teachers to say, here's how I learn, here's how we can work together for us to be successful in my education. And that's really what the YES program is about. The YES program exists in 4 states at this point in time. It's in Massachusetts, New Jersey, Utah, and Colorado. And the CSP program is national. Back to if we've got 1,300 kids in the program, it is all across the country. And then if you think about the Learning Ally audiobook solution, the Great Reading Games is a great example of student engagement. So what is the Great Reading Games? The Great Reading Games is a contest that we launch once a year. It's actually, we run one in the summer also, but it's not called the Great Reading Games, it's called Summer Reading. But it's all about how do we help students and giving them prizes at the end for the amount that they read. And essentially, we give it to the classroom. So it's all about the highest performing classrooms of the amount of reading that they're doing. And if you oversimplify this down at some level, it's kind of like a book club, right? It's all about creating engagement. It's all about helping kids that struggle to read and giving them prizes and engagement for reading. So that's just, again, an example of student engagement around our audiobook solution. And there are many more of those types of things that will be following. So then if we go to our last topic, which is really the tracking of our technology. So if you go from a library, again, where we actually knew nothing about our users, how much they were using it, to, I hate to say it, but we're kind of Big Brother-like today, where there's very little we don't know about you, which means we can actually help drive, again, you from one place to the other. So the first one is tracking of reading behavior by individual students, by teacher and schools. So we now have data down to the individual student level, rolled up to the teacher level, rolled up to the school level, rolled up to the district level. And what we really look at is the number of students who should be using Learning Ally in your school, the number of students who are using Learning Ally in your school, and the level of frequency that is happening within a school. So what we then can use, what we can then look at and say, okay, we have school over here who should have 100 kids using, but they only have got 3, and of those 3 kids, only 1 or 2 of them are using at a level of frequency. What do we need to do differently to get them using at the right level of, one, number of students and the right level of frequency? And we have a school over here who has 100 students using, and 50% of them are using at high frequency. And then here's the distribution of the rest of the students. What do we do there? Or how do we help this school and use them as an example to get this school up and running? So we really use that type of reporting and tracking to run our organization, to know what schools, what teachers, what districts are utilizing at the level that we believe or we feel is the proper levels versus schools we know we still need to work on to drive higher usage. And it also helps us understand who are the champion teachers that we can pull across and really learn from what they're doing in their classroom that we can learn from. So back to, as Amy was out talking to students and talking to students in the school or talking to teachers, we can then go base our research on who's using at what levels versus who's not. So what's working? We can go to a school that says, okay, they've got low utilization. Let's talk to them about why they're not, what do we need to shift from a solution standpoint, versus a school that is a high user, what are they doing differently and what can we take from them and impart that knowledge on other schools and other students. So that data is hugely important for us now to really understand where we're having an impact versus where we're not having the level of impact that we want. So that actually covers 1 and 2. The third one is to share effective practices, right, to help other schools, which we talked about, and educators improve and achieve similar success. So what you're actually seeing on the screen is the progress report for 33andMe, right? So what this is now available at the school level that shows how much is a student reading, at what frequency, how many books have they read, how many hours they've actually read in school versus how much have they read at home. That's actually really important. That shows the level of engagement. So if you, back to that data, that we actually know whether a student's reading at home or in school, and if we actually, as part of 33andMe, part of what they're filling out is if they have reading time in school versus at home, well, we can then actually tell the teacher where the student is doing the reading and kind of how does that all pull through. So again, an example of us using data and using reporting to feed back to the school on where students are reading, how much they're reading, and allowing to make adjustments. The other part which is really important and we've gotten much smarter about, if you think about Amazon but kind of on steroids, is if a student is reading this, what would they like to read or what would they read next? So because we're serving 300,000 students and because we watch what they're reading and we actually know what type of school they're in, whether they're in a low-income school, a high-income school, and we have a lot of data on that student, we're a lot smarter in saying, hey, if a student read this, here are what other students who are like them are reading, and we can suggest that as part of our model as well. So, and it's coming from other students like them. So we're very smart now on suggesting titles based upon what other students like them are reading so we can improve that experience for them. So data allows us to do that and tracking the data allows us to do that.